The invitation in Mara's hand looked identical to the one her best friend had shown her yesterday, right down to the embossed gold lettering and cream cardstock. But when she pushed through the doors of the Sterling Hotel's Rose Ballroom, something felt immediately wrong. The room sparkled with champagne towers and rose gold decorations, filled with women in designer dresses and heels that probably cost more than Mara's monthly rent. She smoothed down her simple navy dress, suddenly conscious of the clearance rack tag she had cut off this morning. Her friend Jessica had mentioned something casual, just mimosas and games at a local restaurant, but this looked like a spread from a wedding magazine. "Jessica," Mara called out, scanning the crowd of unfamiliar faces. Not a single person looked remotely like anyone she knew. A woman in a pale pink suit approached with a clipboard, her smile professional but confused. "Hello, can I help you find your table? I'm looking for Jessica Martinez. This is her bridal shower, right?" The woman's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. "This is the bridal shower for Olivia Blackwell." "Are you perhaps at the wrong event?" Heat flooded Mara's cheeks as the realization crashed over her. Wrong ballroom. Wrong bride. Very, very wrong crowd. She clutched her gift bag tighter, wishing the marble floor would open up and swallow her whole. "Oh my God, I am so sorry. I must have the wrong room. I will just—" She turned to make her escape, but her heel caught on the edge of an ornate rug. She stumbled forward, arms windmilling, and crashed directly into a server carrying a tray of champagne flutes. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the ballroom like a bomb going off. Liquid splashed across the floor, across her dress, and across the crisp white shirt of the tall man who had apparently materialized out of nowhere to try to steady her. Time seemed to freeze. Every conversation stopped. Every eye in the room turned toward the disaster zone that was Mara's existence. "I am so sorry," she gasped, looking up at the man she had just drenched in expensive champagne. Her apology died on her lips as she met his eyes. He was stunning in a way that made her forget how to breathe properly. Dark hair slightly tousled, strong jawline, and gray-blue eyes that held an intensity she could feel in her bones. He wore his suit like it had been crafted specifically for his broad shoulders, and despite being soaked in champagne, he looked more amused than angry. "That's one way to make an entrance," he said, his voice deep and smooth with a hint of laughter underneath. "I shouldn't even be here." Wrong room, wrong shower, apparently wrong everything. Mara wanted to cry and laugh and disappear all at once. She grabbed napkins from a nearby table and made a futile attempt to dab at his shirt. "I'm making it worse. I always make things worse when I panic." His hand covered hers, stopping her frantic movements. His touch was warm, steadying. "It's just champagne. The shirt will survive." "Sir, I am so sorry," the server was saying, his face pale with worry. "I didn't see her coming." "Not your fault," the man said easily, still looking at Mara with those unnerving eyes. "Accidents happen." A woman in an ivory dress glided over, her expression caught between concern and barely suppressed laughter. She was beautiful in an effortless way, with the same dark hair and striking features as the champagne-soaked man. "Connor, are you all right? What happened?" "Our guest had a small navigational error," Connor said, finally releasing Mara's hand. She immediately missed the warmth of it. "I'm leaving, I promise," Mara said quickly. "I'm so sorry to interrupt your event. Congratulations on your wedding, by the way. I assume you're the bride since this is your shower and everything, which I crashed, which I'm very sorry about." The woman laughed, a genuine sound that eased some of Mara's mortification. "Thank you, I'm Olivia, and you are mortified. Also Mara Chen." She hiked her purse higher on her shoulder, still clutching the gift bag meant for Jessica. My friend is having her bridal shower today too, just apparently not in this ballroom. I saw the decorations and just walked in like I owned the place." "Well, you certainly made an impression," Olivia said warmly. "Since you're already here and we're drowning in mimosas and finger foods, why don't you stay for a bit? At least until Connor changes his shirt." "Oh no, I couldn't possibly impose any more than I already have." "You're not imposing," Connor said. Something in his tone made Mara look up at him again. He was studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Besides, I'm curious to see if you make a habit of crashing parties or if this is a special occasion." "Generally, I prefer to crash events I'm actually invited to. More strategic that way." The words slipped out before Mara could stop them, and she immediately wanted to take them back. Who made jokes after causing a scene like this? But Connor laughed, a real laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. A crasher with standards. Impressive. "Connor, go change," Olivia said, shaking her head fondly. "Mara, come with me. I want to hear the full story of how you ended up here, and you look like you could use a drink after all that." Before Mara could protest again, Olivia linked her arm through hers and guided her toward a group of women near the champagne tower. Mara caught one last glimpse of Connor watching her as he headed toward the exit, something thoughtful in his expression. "Don't mind my brother," Olivia said as they walked. "He usually hides in his office during events like this. The fact that he showed up at all is a minor miracle. Brother." The word echoed in Mara's mind. So Connor was the bride's brother, not a date or boyfriend. Not that it mattered. A man who looked like that, at an event this expensive, was so far out of her league they were playing different sports. Olivia introduced her to a small group that included her maid of honor and 2 cousins. They were surprisingly welcoming, laughing about their own embarrassing party moments and insisting that Mara's entrance would be the highlight story for years to come. "At my bachelorette party, I fell into a fountain," one of the cousins confessed. "So you're in good company." Mara started to relax despite herself. She accepted a fresh mimosa and found herself genuinely enjoying the conversation. Olivia asked about her work, and Mara explained that she was a physical therapist at a rehabilitation center downtown. "That must be rewarding," Olivia said, "and challenging." "It is. I love helping people regain their independence, seeing them progress from wheelchair to walker to walking on their own. It makes the difficult days worth it." "How did you get into physical therapy?" Mara paused, the familiar ache settling in her chest. "My dad had a stroke when I was in college. Watching his physical therapist work with him, seeing him slowly recover, I knew that's what I wanted to do. He made a nearly full recovery thanks to dedicated therapy and his stubborn personality." "That's wonderful that he recovered," Olivia said gently. "He's doing great now. Drives my mom crazy with his independence, actually." Mara smiled at the thought of her father insisting on carrying groceries and climbing ladders despite her mother's protests. Connor reappeared 20 minutes later in a fresh shirt, his hair slightly damp like he had splashed water on his face. His eyes found Mara immediately across the room, and she felt that same jolt of awareness. He made his way over, and Olivia excused herself with a knowing smile that made Mara nervous. "Feeling better?" Connor asked, claiming the seat Olivia had vacated. More like feeling deeply embarrassed but trying to hide it behind small talk and mimosas. "The mimosas are helping." "Not even a little bit." He smiled at that, a slow curve of his mouth that did dangerous things to her pulse. "For what it's worth, this is the most interesting bridal shower I've ever attended. Usually, they involve a lot of giggling about wedding night advice that I absolutely don't want to hear about my sister." Mara laughed despite herself. I promise my grand entrance was not planned as a distraction from awkward conversations. Happy accident then. He leaned back in his chair, completely at ease. So, Mara Chen, who crashes bridal showers, tell me something interesting about yourself. Shouldn't you be mingling with actual invited guests? I'm the brother. My only job is to show up and stay out of the way. I'm overachieving by actually talking to someone. His eyes held challenge and warmth in equal measure. Besides, you're the most interesting person here. You have low standards if a klutz who can't read room numbers is your idea of interesting. I think crashing a party full of strangers and then making everyone love you anyway takes guts. Or a complete lack of awareness. I'm going with guts. He flagged down a server and grabbed 2 fresh drinks, handing her one. Now stop deflecting and tell me something real. There was something about the way he looked at her, fully present and genuinely curious, that made Mara want to be honest. I'm terrified of birds, not like cute little sparrows, but pigeons and seagulls. They're unpredictable and they have those weird feet. Connor's laugh was unexpected and completely unguarded. Weird feet. Have you looked at pigeon feet? They're dinosaur feet. Birds are basically tiny velociraptors that learn to fly, and everyone just accepts this as normal. I have never once thought about pigeon feet until this moment, and now I will never be able to unsee it. You're welcome for ruining birds for you. They talked like that for the next hour, easy and natural despite the absurdity of how they had met. Mara learned that Connor ran his own commercial real estate development company, that he had a habit of working too much according to Olivia, and that he genuinely enjoyed these family events even if he pretended otherwise. Real estate development, Mara said. So you build things. I acquire properties and reimagine them. Old warehouses into mixed-use spaces, abandoned buildings into community centers, that kind of thing. I like taking something forgotten and giving it new purpose. That sounds amazing, actually. Do you have a project you're working on now? Connor's expression shifted, becoming more animated. There's a historic theater downtown that's been vacant for 15 years. I'm working on converting it into a performing arts center with affordable housing above it. It's been a nightmare with permits and preservation requirements, but it's going to be incredible when it's done. I think I know which one you mean. The old Paramount. That's the one. You know it. I walk past it every day on my way to work. I always thought it was such a shame to see it sitting empty. The architecture is gorgeous. Most people don't notice the architecture anymore. They just see a building that needs too much work. He studied her again with that intense focus. You pay attention. Occupational hazard. I spend my days analyzing how people move through space and what obstacles they face. I guess I notice buildings the same way. Their conversation was interrupted by the clinking of a glass. Olivia stood at the front of the room, her maid of honor beside her, ready to start the scheduled games and activities. I should probably find my actual friend's bridal shower, Mara whispered to Connor. Or you could stay, he said quietly. Unless you have somewhere else you need to be. Mara should have left. This was not her party, not her crowd, not her world. But something about the way Connor was looking at her made her want to stay just a little longer. I'll stay for a bit, she agreed. The games were entertaining, even if Mara felt awkward participating in activities for a bride she had met an hour ago. But Olivia kept pulling her into the action, and the other guests treated her like she belonged there. Connor watched from the sidelines with several other family members who had shown up to support Olivia, his attention returning to Mara more often than not. During a game that involved guessing facts about the groom, Mara leaned over to Connor. I have literally no chance of winning this. Neither does anyone else. Olivia and James have been together since high school. She could ask what his favorite food was in third grade and he would probably remember. That's really sweet, actually. How long have they been engaged? About a year. James has been part of the family forever, though. He's a good guy, treats her like she hung the moon. You approve, then? Absolutely. If I didn't, we would be having a very different conversation. There was steel underneath the casual words, a protectiveness that Mara found incredibly attractive. When the games concluded, lunch was served on delicate china plates. Mara ended up at a table with Olivia Connor and a few close family friends. The food was incredible, far beyond what Mara usually experienced at events, and the conversation flowed easily. Mara was just telling me about her work as a physical therapist, Olivia said to the table. She helps people recover from strokes and injuries. An older woman across the table, who had been introduced as Olivia's aunt, leaned forward with interest. My husband had hip replacement surgery last year. His physical therapist was a miracle worker. Recovery from joint replacement is tough, Mara agreed. It's such a balance between pushing hard enough to make progress, but not so hard that you cause damage. How is he doing now? The conversation shifted to healthcare and recovery, and Mara found herself in her element, discussing treatment approaches and the importance of consistent therapy. Connor listened with apparent interest, asking thoughtful questions about her work. It must be difficult when patients get frustrated with their progress, he observed. That's the hardest part, Mara admitted. They want immediate results, but healing takes time. I spend a lot of energy on the mental and emotional side of recovery, not just the physical exercises. Believing you can get better is half the battle. Sounds like you're good at your job. I care about my patients. That helps. As lunch wound down and guests started to leave, Mara knew she couldn't put off her departure any longer. She had thoroughly enjoyed this accidental detour, but reality was calling. She still needed to find Jessica's actual bridal shower. She found Olivia near the gift table and pulled her aside. Thank you so much for letting me stay. This was not how I planned my day, but I had a wonderful time. I'm so glad you stayed, Olivia said warmly. You brought good energy to the party, and I think my brother is pretty glad too. Mara felt her cheeks warm. He was very nice about the whole champagne incident. Connor is particular about who he spends time with. The fact that he sat through an entire bridal shower is basically a declaration of interest. Olivia's smile was mischievous. I'm just saying. I should let you get back to your guests. Wait. Olivia pulled out her phone. Give me your number. I'm serious about staying in touch. Friends who make memorable entrances are hard to find. Mara rattled off her number, genuinely touched by Olivia's warmth. As she turned to leave, she nearly collided with Connor again. We have to stop meeting like this, she said. I disagree. This seems to be working well for us. He held up his own phone. Give me your number too, unless you make a habit of crashing parties and never seeing people again. Mara's heart did a complicated flutter. You want my number? I want to take you to dinner. Actual dinner, not accidental party attendance. His directness was disarming. Are you interested? Every logical part of Mara's brain screamed that this was a bad idea. He was clearly wealthy, clearly out of her league, clearly the kind of man who dated women who knew which fork to use for each course. But the way he looked at her, like she was someone worth knowing, made logic feel irrelevant. Yes, she heard herself say. I'm interested. She added her number to his phone, their fingers brushing in the exchange. The touch sent electricity up her arm. I'll text you, Connor promised. Soon. You better. I already crashed one party today. I'd hate to have to track you down. His laugh followed her out of the ballroom, warm and genuine. Mara found Jessica's bridal shower 3 floors down in a much smaller conference room. Her friend rushed over immediately. "There you are. I was about to send a search party. What happened?" "Would you believe me if I said I accidentally crashed a millionaire's sister's bridal shower, destroyed a tray of champagne, and got asked out by the hottest man I have ever seen in my life?" Jessica stared at her. "I would not believe a single word of that." "Good, because it definitely didn't happen." Mara hugged her friend. "Congratulations. Tell me everything about the wedding plans." But even as she settled into Jessica's party, Mara's phone buzzed in her purse. A text from an unknown number. "Unknown. This is Connor. Tomorrow night for dinner. I know a place that serves food and doesn't require crashing any parties." Mara bit her lip to hide her smile. "Mara, tomorrow works. Should I bring my party crashing shoes just in case, Connor? Only if they're the ones that make you run into tall strangers. Connor, 7 okay, I can pick you up." Mara hesitated only a moment before sending her address. This was either the beginning of something wonderful or a spectacular mistake. Given her track record today, it could go either way. The next evening, Mara changed outfits 4 times before settling on a forest green dress that her roommate swore made her eyes pop. She kept her makeup simple, curled her hair, and tried to ignore the anxiety twisting in her stomach. Connor arrived exactly at 7, looking unfairly good in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that somehow made his eyes even more striking. He held a single sunflower. "You remembered," Mara said, taking the flower with surprise. She had mentioned in passing yesterday that sunflowers were her favorite. "I pay attention too." His smile was slightly nervous, which somehow made Mara feel better about her own nerves. The restaurant he chose was elegant but not pretentious, tucked into a renovated brownstone with exposed brick and soft lighting. The host greeted Connor by name and led them to a quiet corner table. "You come here often?" Mara asked as they settled into their seats. "Often enough that they know me, not so often that it's lost its charm. The chef is incredible and they source everything locally." He paused. "Is this okay? I realized after I made the reservation that I should have asked what kind of food you like. This is perfect. I'm not picky and I love trying new things." They ordered wine and appetizers, and the initial awkwardness melted away as they fell into the same easy conversation from the day before. Connor asked about her work, her family, her life, with genuine interest that felt rare and valuable. "My parents immigrated from Taiwan before I was born," Mara explained. "They worked incredibly hard to build their restaurant. My dad still insists on being there every day, even after the stroke. Says retirement is for people who don't love what they do." "What kind of restaurant?" "Traditional Taiwanese cuisine. It's not fancy, but the food is authentic and made with love. My mom's beef noodle soup could solve world peace if given the chance. I'd love to try it sometime." "You say that now, but my dad will interrogate you about your intentions and my mom will try to feed you until you can't move." "Sounds perfect to me." The food arrived, each course more delicious than the last. They shared bites across the table, discussing flavors and textures and memories that certain foods brought up. Connor told her about growing up with Olivia, how they had been close despite a 2-year age gap. "She's the creative one," Connor said. "Always has been. She's an interior designer, runs her own firm. She's redesigning the theater I mentioned, keeping it in the family. She's the best at what she does. It's not nepotism if she legitimately earned the job." His pride in his sister was evident. "Our parents retired to Charleston a few years ago. They built the company from nothing and wanted to enjoy their success. I took over and expanded into different markets." "You enjoy it? The business side of things?" Connor considered the question seriously. "I do. I like the challenge of making something work when everyone says it can't be done. But I also like the impact, creating spaces where people live and work and build their lives. That matters to me. It's not just about profit. That's a good way to approach business. My father taught me that. He always said that wealth means nothing if you don't use it to make things better. Connor reached across the table and took her hand. Enough about me. Tell me something else about you. Something real. Mara looked down at their joined hands, his thumb tracing patterns on her palm. I'm scared that I'm not enough. That I work with people every day who are fighting for their lives and their independence, and I'm still just me. Just Mara who crashes parties and can't kill a spider without apologizing to it first. Those things aren't contradictions. You can be someone who helps people heal and also someone who's kind to spiders. Even when they're really big and creepy, especially then. It takes a strong person to be gentle. The sincerity in his voice made Mara's throat tight. She wasn't used to being seen this clearly by someone she barely knew. They lingered over dessert, neither wanting the evening to end. When Connor finally drove her home, he walked her to her door like they had all the time in the world. I had a really good time tonight, Mara said, suddenly shy. Good enough for a second date. Are you sure you want to risk it? I might crash something else. I'm willing to take that chance. He stepped closer, giving her time to move away if she wanted. When she didn't, he cupped her face gently and kissed her. The kiss was soft and questioning at first, then deeper as Mara responded. She felt it all the way to her toes, warm and right and terrifying in its intensity. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Definitely good enough for a second date, Mara whispered. Connor's laugh was shaky. I'll call you tomorrow. He did call and they made plans for the weekend. Then he called the next day too, just to talk while he was stuck in traffic, and the day after that. Their second date was a cooking class where they made pasta from scratch and laughed at their misshapen ravioli. Their third date was a hike followed by a picnic, where Connor admitted he had never actually been hiking before, but wanted to try something Mara enjoyed. You chose hiking for our third date when you have never been hiking, Mara asked, delighted. I wanted to see what you love about it. Plus, I figured if I fell off a cliff, you could provide physical therapy. That's not how physical therapy works. Then I better not fall. They didn't fall, but they did get slightly lost and end up taking a much longer trail than intended. By the time they made it back to Connor's car, they were exhausted and covered in trail dust, and Mara was more charmed by him than ever. 2 weeks into dating, Connor invited her to a charity gala his company was sponsoring. Mara panicked immediately. I don't have anything appropriate to wear to a gala, she told her roommate Sophia that evening. What even is a gala? Is it different from a ball? Do I need a gown? Sophia, who worked in fashion retail, looked up from her laptop with excitement. You need a gown. And I know exactly where we are going. The next day, Sophia dragged Mara to a consignment shop that specialized in designer formal wear. After trying on what felt like dozens of dresses, Mara found a midnight blue gown that fit like it had been made for her. Connor is going to lose his mind when he sees you in this, Sophia declared. It's too much. I can't afford this. It's consignment and it's on sale. Consider it an investment in your Cinderella moment. Mara bought the dress, along with borrowed shoes from Sophia and a promise from her roommate to help with hair and makeup. The night of the gala, Connor picked her up in a sleek black car that probably cost more than Mara made in a year. His expression when she opened the door made every penny of the dress worth it. You look stunning, he said, his voice rough. You clean up pretty well yourself. He wore a tuxedo like he was born to it, all sharp lines and confident elegance. But it was the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the world that made Mara feel truly beautiful. The gala was held at a downtown museum, with soaring ceilings and art worth more than Mara could fathom. Connor kept her close, his hand at the small of her back, introducing her to business associates and friends with obvious pride. "This is Mara Chen," he would say. "She's a physical therapist and she is brilliant at what she does. Not, 'This is the girl I'm dating,' or 'This is my friend.' Just her name and her work, presented as equals to whatever titles these people held. They mingled and sipped champagne, and Mara tried not to be intimidated by the wealth surrounding them. Several people recognized Connor as a successful developer, and there were whispered conversations about his projects and his company's valuation. "You didn't mention your company was worth millions," Mara said quietly when they had a moment alone. Connor looked uncomfortable. "Does it matter?" "I don't know. Maybe. I'm just realizing there is a significant difference between our tax brackets." "Mara, look at me." He waited until she met his eyes. "I don't care about any of that. I care about you. The woman who crashes parties and makes everyone love her. The woman who fights for her patients and apologizes to spiders. That's who I want to be with. Even though I shop at Target and you probably have never been inside a Target in your life. I have been inside Target. Once. I got lost in the home goods section." His admission surprised a laugh out of her, breaking the tension. "You got lost in Target. There were so many throw pillows. How does anyone make decisions with that many options? You're ridiculous." "I'm honest." He pulled her onto the dance floor as the band started playing. "Dance with me and stop overthinking." They swayed together and Mara let herself sink into the moment. His arms felt solid and safe, and the way he held her made her feel precious. When the song ended, Connor didn't let go. "Come with me," he said. "I want to show you something." He led her through the museum to a quieter gallery filled with photographs. They were stunning images of urban landscapes, buildings in various states of decay and renewal. "These are photos of spaces before and after renovation," Connor explained. "This photographer documents urban transformation." I've always loved his work because he shows that nothing is beyond saving. Every abandoned building, every forgotten space has potential. Mara studied the images, seeing the care in each frame. "Is that how you see your projects?" "It's how I see everything. People write things off too easily. They see problems instead of possibilities." He looked at her intently. "I like finding the value in what others overlook. Are we still talking about buildings?" "Maybe not entirely." His hand found hers. "I know we have not known each other long, but I haven't felt this way about anyone in a very long time, maybe ever." Mara's heart hammered in her chest. "I feel it too. It scares me a little. Good scared or bad scared. Good scared. The kind where you know something is going to change your life, and you are not sure if you are ready, but you want it anyway." Connor kissed her then, soft and deep, in a quiet gallery surrounded by images of transformation and renewal. When they finally left the gala hours later, Mara felt like she was floating. Over the next month, they fell into a rhythm. Connor would visit her at work sometimes, bringing coffee and sitting patiently in the waiting room until her shift ended. Mara would meet him at job sites, marveling at his vision for spaces and his ability to see potential where she only saw rubble. They had dinner with Olivia and James, a double date that felt natural and easy. Olivia pulled Mara aside at one point. "I have never seen my brother this happy," she said. "Thank you for crashing my bridal shower. Thank you for not throwing me out. Best accident ever." Mara introduced Connor to her parents at their restaurant on a quiet Tuesday evening. Her father interrogated him thoroughly in Mandarin, which Connor couldn't understand but endured with good grace. "He likes you," Mara's mother told Connor in English. He just wants to make sure you treat our daughter well." "I intend to treat her better than well," Connor said seriously. "She deserves everything good." Her father grunted, which was high praise from him, and proceeded to serve them enough food for 6 people. True to Mara's warning, her mother kept bringing more dishes even when they insisted they were full. "Your family is wonderful," Connor said as they drove home that night, both stuffed to uncomfortable levels. "They liked you too." "My dad's grunt of approval is the highest compliment he gives." "I was hoping that was approval and not indigestion." Things were good, better than good, until they weren't. It started with an argument about Connor's work schedule. He had canceled 2 dates in 1 week because of emergency meetings, and Mara was trying to be understanding but feeling increasingly sidelined. "I get that your work is important," she said on the phone one evening, "but I haven't seen you in 5 days. You barely answer texts. I feel like I am dating your voicemail." "This deal is massive, Mara. I have investors flying in from 3 different countries. I can't just walk away." "I'm not asking you to walk away. I'm asking you to acknowledge that I exist. That's not fair. You know how I feel about you." "Do I? Because right now it feels like I'm something you fit in when you have spare time." The conversation ended badly, both of them frustrated and talking past each other. They didn't speak for 2 days, the silence sitting heavy between them. It was Olivia who finally intervened. She called Mara and invited her to coffee. "He's miserable," Olivia said without preamble. "I know he messed up. He knows he messed up. But he is terrible at balancing work and life. It's been a problem forever." "I don't want to be the girlfriend who complains about his career. That's not fair to him either. But you deserve someone who makes time for you. You're right about that." Olivia stirred her latte thoughtfully. "Connor puts everything into his work because it's what he knows. Our parents were the same way, building their business. He learned that love means providing and succeeding, but not that it also means being present. I don't know how to fix that." "Talk to him. Really talk, not just argue. He loves you, Mara. I know he does. He's just being an idiot about showing it." That evening, Connor showed up at Mara's apartment unannounced. He looked exhausted, his tie loose and his hair disheveled like he had been running his hands through it. "Can we talk?" he asked. Mara let him in and they sat on her worn couch in the small living room. For a long moment neither spoke. "I'm sorry," Connor finally said. "You were right. I was treating you like an afterthought, and that's not okay. You deserve better. I understand that your work is demanding. I'm not trying to compete with your career. I know. But I need to figure out how to balance things better. I've never had to before. I've never had someone I wanted to make time for like this." He took her hand. "My parents worked constantly when Olivia and I were growing up. We had everything materially, but they were always busy. I swore I wouldn't be like that, and then I turned into exactly them. Connor, I don't need expensive dates or grand gestures. I just need you. Present and here, not physically here but mentally somewhere else. I want to be better at this, at us. Will you give me another chance?" Mara studied his face, seeing genuine regret and determination. "Yes, but we need to communicate better, both of us. I should have said something sooner instead of letting resentment build. We'll figure it out together." They did figure it out, slowly. Connor made an effort to set boundaries with work, delegating more and protecting their time together. Mara worked on being clearer about her needs before she reached her breaking point. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. 3 months into their relationship, Connor invited Mara to see the theater renovation. The project was nearing completion, and he was like a kid on Christmas showing her around. The space was breathtaking. The original Art Deco details had been restored, the marquee gleaming with new lights. The theater itself had been updated with modern sound and seating while maintaining its historic charm. Upstairs, the apartments were bright and spacious, with huge windows and high ceilings. "This is incredible," Mara breathed. "You brought it back to life." "We brought it back to life." Olivia's design work made it possible. He led her onto the stage, the empty theater seats stretching before them. "I wanted to show you this because it matters to me that you see what I do. Not the money or the success, but this, making something beautiful and useful. I see it. I see you." Connor pulled her close on that stage, and Mara felt the significance of the moment. This was his heart, his passion, laid out for her to understand. "I love you," Connor said. "I've wanted to tell you for weeks, but I was waiting for the right moment. This is it. Here in this space that represents everything I care about with you. I love you, Mara." Tears pricked Mara's eyes. "I love you too, so much it terrifies me." "Good, we can be terrified together." They kissed on that stage, surrounded by history and renewal, and Mara felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The night of Olivia's wedding, Mara stood beside Connor in the church, watching his sister marry her longtime love. The ceremony was beautiful, full of laughter and tears and promises that felt solid and true. At the reception, Connor and Mara danced under string lights while a band played. Other couples swirled around them, but Mara only saw Connor. "This could be us someday," Connor murmured against her hair. "Is that a hypothetical or a plan? Maybe both." He pulled back to look at her. "I know it's soon. I know we are still figuring things out, but I'm sure about you, about us. I'm sure too." They danced until their feet hurt, celebrating Olivia and James, but also celebrating themselves. When the night finally ended, Connor drove Mara home and walked her to her door as always. "Stay," Mara said impulsively. "Tonight, just stay." Connor searched her face. "Are you sure?" "Very sure." He stayed, and it was gentle and right and perfect in all the ways that mattered. They fell asleep tangled together, and Mara woke to sunlight streaming through her windows and Connor watching her with soft eyes. "Good morning," she whispered. "Best morning," he corrected, kissing her forehead. They made breakfast together in Mara's tiny kitchen, bumping into each other and laughing at their attempts to coordinate in the small space. It felt domestic and wonderful, a glimpse into a possible future. As months turned into a year, their relationship deepened and strengthened. They weathered Connor's demanding work schedule and Mara's emotionally draining days at the clinic. They celebrated each other's victories and supported each other through challenges. Connor met Mara's extended family at Chinese New Year, gamely attempting to keep up with the noise and food and endless questions from relatives. Mara attended business dinners and charity events at Connor's side, growing more comfortable in his world while maintaining her own identity. "You don't have to come to everything," Connor told her before one particularly boring industry conference. "I know, but I want to support you even when it's boring. That's what partners do." "How did I get so lucky? You got doused in champagne by a party crasher." "Lucky or cursed, depending on your perspective. Definitely lucky." The theater project opened to great fanfare, with a ribbon-cutting ceremony and articles in multiple architecture magazines. Connor insisted that Mara be in the photos with him. "This is your success," she protested. "Everything I do is better because you're in my life. You're part of this." The community response to the theater was overwhelming. The Performing Arts Center booked solid for months, and the apartments above filled immediately with artists and young professionals who appreciated the space and the affordable rent Connor had insisted on maintaining. "You did good," Mara told him as they toured the space on opening night. "We did good," he corrected. "Your perspective on accessibility influenced the entire design. Those wider doorways and the ramp system were your ideas. I just pointed out that not everyone can use stairs easily. And that matters. It makes the space better for everyone. One evening, about 14 months after they met, Connor invited Mara to dinner at the restaurant where they had their first date. She sensed something different in his energy, a nervous excitement that made her curious. They ordered their usual dishes and talked easily, but Mara noticed Connor seemed distracted. Finally, between the main course and dessert, he reached across the table and took her hand. "I've been thinking about the first time I saw you," Connor said. "You crashed into my life covered in champagne and apologizing. You were funny and genuine and completely yourself, even in a room full of strangers. I knew immediately you were special." "Connor, what is this?" "This is me telling you that every day since then has been better because you're in it. You challenge me and support me and make me want to be better. You see past the money and the business to who I actually am." He slid out of his chair and dropped to one knee beside the table. Mara's hands flew to her mouth as Connor pulled out a small velvet box. "Mara Chen, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you have made me?" Tears streamed down Mara's face as she nodded frantically. "Yes. Yes. Absolutely yes." Connor slipped the ring on her finger, a beautiful emerald-cut diamond that caught the light perfectly. Then he stood and kissed her while the other diners applauded. "I love you," Mara said against his lips. "So much." "I love you too, my party crasher, my future wife." They called their families from the parking lot, too excited to wait. Olivia screamed so loud they had to hold the phone away from their ears. Mara's mother cried and immediately started planning wedding logistics. "We just got engaged 5 minutes ago," Mara laughed. 5 minutes is long enough. I have ideas." Planning the wedding was chaotic and joyful. Mara's mother and Olivia joined forces, a combination that proved both helpful and overwhelming. Connor stayed largely out of the details, trusting Mara to make decisions and only weighing in when asked directly. "You care about centerpieces?" Mara asked one evening, showing him 2 nearly identical floral arrangements. "I care that you're happy. Pick whichever one makes you smile." "That's a cop-out answer." "It's an honest answer. I just want to marry you. Everything else is bonus." They decided on a garden wedding at a historic estate, with a reception in the renovated barn on the property. The date was set for late spring, when the flowers would be in full bloom. Mara asked Sophia to be her maid of honor, along with 2 other close friends as bridesmaids. Olivia insisted on being involved despite having just been a bride herself. "I want to help plan my brother's wedding," Olivia declared. "I've been waiting for him to find someone worth marrying his entire life." Connor asked James to be his best man, and the 2 of them bonded over the absurdity of wedding planning while the women made most of the actual decisions. At the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding, both families came together in celebration. Mara's parents hosted at their restaurant, serving dishes they had perfected over decades. Connor's parents flew in from Charleston, charming everyone with stories about Connor and Olivia as children. "He was always serious, even as a little boy," Connor's father told Mara, "but you make him laugh." "That's a gift. He makes me laugh too, and he makes me feel seen." That's the secret to a good marriage, seeing each other, really seeing and choosing each other anyway. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, the sky a perfect blue. Mara got ready surrounded by her bridesmaids, her mother fussing over every detail while Sophia kept everyone on schedule. When Mara finally put on her wedding dress, a simple but elegant gown with delicate lace sleeves, she barely recognized herself in the mirror. "You look like a princess," Sophia said, her voice thick with emotion. "I feel like me, just a really fancy version." Her father knocked on the door, and when he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. He said something in Mandarin, too emotional for English. "What did he say?" Sophia whispered. He said I look like my mother did on their wedding day, that I'm beautiful and he is proud of the woman I became. Mara hugged her father carefully, not wanting to wrinkle her dress but needing the connection. He had recovered so well from his stroke, and having him walk her down the aisle meant everything. The ceremony took place in the garden, under an arch covered in white roses and greenery. Guests filled chairs on either side of a petal-strewn aisle, and at the end of that aisle stood Connor. He wore a navy suit that matched his eyes, and when he saw Mara, his face transformed with joy and love so powerful it took her breath away. She walked toward him on her father's arm, her eyes never leaving Connor's face. Her father placed her hand in Connor's with a nod of approval, and then it was just the two of them standing before their friends and family, promising forever. "I never believed in love at first sight until I met you," Connor said during his vows. "You crashed into my life and changed everything. You showed me what it means to be truly seen and valued. I promise to love you fiercely and gently, to be present and honest, to choose you every single day for the rest of our lives." Mara's voice shook as she said her own vows. "You turned my biggest embarrassment into the best accident of my life. You see me not as someone to be fixed or improved, but as someone worthy exactly as I am. I promise to support your dreams while maintaining my own, to communicate even when it's hard, to love you through every season of life. You are my home, Connor, and I will always choose you." They exchanged rings, simple gold bands engraved with the date they met, and when the officiant pronounced them married, Connor kissed Mara with a sweetness that made the guests sigh. The reception was everything Mara had hoped for. The food was incredible, mixing dishes from her parents' restaurant with the elegant catering Connor had arranged. The barn had been transformed with lights and flowers, rustic and romantic in equal measure. For their first dance, Connor and Mara swayed together while everyone watched. Halfway through the song, Connor whispered, "Remember when you said you were terrified of how much you loved me? I remember. I'm not terrified anymore, I'm just grateful. Me too." They danced and laughed and celebrated into the night. Mara's mother cried through 3 different speeches. Connor's father told embarrassing childhood stories. Olivia gave a toast about party crashing and fate that had everyone laughing and crying simultaneously. When it was finally time to leave, Mara and Connor ran through a tunnel of sparklers held by their guests. They climbed into the car that would take them to the hotel, and as they drove away, Mara looked at her new husband. "We did it. We're married. Best decision I ever made." Connor brought her hand to his lips. "Where to now, Mrs. Blackwell?" Mara had kept her last name professionally, but loved hearing him call her that anyway. "Everywhere. Anywhere. As long as we are together." They honeymooned in Taiwan, visiting the village where Mara's parents had grown up and exploring night markets and temples. Connor insisted on trying every street food, even when the options looked questionable. They hiked in mountains and lounged on beaches and talked about their future. "How many kids do you want?" Connor asked one evening as they watched the sunset. "I haven't thought about specific numbers. 2, maybe 3. You. However many we can love well. I don't want to be like my parents, so busy providing that we forget to be present. We'll be different. We're already different." When they returned home, they moved into a new house that Connor had been renovating as a surprise. It was in a quiet neighborhood with good schools, a compromise between the city energy Mara loved and the space Connor wanted. "This is too much," Mara said when she saw it. "It's ours. I wanted us to start our marriage in a space we chose together. If you hate it, we can sell it and find something else." But Mara didn't hate it. She loved the light-filled rooms and the garden space and the library Connor had designed specifically for her. She loved that he had thought about what would make her happy and built it into the bones of their home. They settled into married life with surprising ease. Mara continued her work at the clinic, finding deep satisfaction in helping her patients progress. Connor took on new projects but was more careful about boundaries, making sure to prioritize time with Mara. They hosted dinner parties and game nights. They traveled when they could and stayed home in pajamas when they needed rest. They argued sometimes, usually about small things like whose turn it was to do dishes or whether they needed to attend another charity gala, but they always worked through it. 2 years into their marriage, Mara discovered she was pregnant. She stared at the positive test in disbelief, then joy, then panic. She told Connor that evening after dinner. He had just finished telling her about a new property he was considering when she interrupted. "I'm pregnant." Connor froze, his wine glass halfway to his mouth. "You're what, pregnant?" "I took 3 tests to be sure. We're having a baby." The glass landed on the table with a thunk as Connor crossed the room in 2 strides. He pulled Mara into his arms, lifting her off the ground and spinning her around. "We're having a baby," he repeated, wonder in his voice. "You're serious, very serious. Are you happy?" Happy doesn't begin to cover it. He set her down gently, his hands going to her still flat stomach. "There's a person in there. A very small person, about the size of a grape right now." "Our grape. I love our grape already." Mara laughed through happy tears. "We are going to be parents, terrifying and amazing. That seems to be our theme." The pregnancy was mostly smooth with normal amounts of nausea and fatigue. Connor became hilariously overprotective, trying to wrap Mara in bubble wrap metaphorically if not literally. "I'm pregnant, not broken," she reminded him when he tried to carry groceries that were perfectly manageable. "I know. I just want to help. You can help by not treating me like glass." "I'm still me." He tried to dial it back, but Mara found his protective streak endearing even when it was excessive. They went to every ultrasound together, marveling at the tiny human taking shape on the screen. They decided not to find out the sex beforehand, wanting to be surprised. The nursery was painted a soft yellow, decorated with bookshelves already filling with children's stories. Olivia threw a baby shower that was somehow even more elaborate than her bridal shower had been. Mara's mother brought enough food to feed an army, insisting that Mara needed to eat for the baby. "The baby is not the size of a turkey," Mara protested. "I don't need to eat an entire feast." "You need strength. Eat." Mara ate because arguing with her mother was pointless. Connor gave a speech at the shower that made everyone cry, talking about how Mara had changed his life and how he couldn't wait to see her as a mother. "She's already the strongest, kindest, most capable person I know," Connor said. "This baby is the luckiest kid in the world." Labor started 3 days before Mara's due date, in the middle of the night because of course it did. Connor went into crisis management mode, timing contractions with one hand and loading hospital bags with the other. "Breathe," Mara told him during a particularly strong contraction. "I'm the one in labor and you look like you might pass out." "I'm fine. I'm great. We've got this." They made it to the hospital with plenty of time, which was good because labor lasted 16 hours. Connor never left Mara's side, holding her hand through contractions and letting her yell at him when the pain got bad. "I love you, but I also hate you right now," Mara panted at one point. "That's fair. You're doing amazing. You're required to say that. Doesn't make it less true." Finally, after what felt like forever, their daughter was born. She came into the world screaming, healthy and perfect and absolutely beautiful. "It's a girl," the doctor said, placing the baby on Mara's chest. Mara looked down at her daughter, this tiny human they had created, and felt her heart crack open with love so vast it was almost painful. Connor leaned over them both, tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect," he whispered. "You're perfect. I can't believe she's ours." They named her Emma after Connor's grandmother, with the middle name May from Mara's mother. Emma May Blackwell, loved before she even drew breath. The early weeks were exhausting and wonderful and sometimes terrifying. Neither of them knew what they were doing, but they figured it out together. Connor took paternity leave from work, something his father had never done, determined to be present for these precious early days. He was surprisingly good at diaper changes and walking the floor at 3 in the morning when Emma wouldn't settle. Mara would wake to find him in the nursery, holding their daughter and telling her stories in a quiet voice. "What are you telling her?" Mara asked one night, leaning against the door frame. "The story of how we met, how her mother crashed a party and changed my entire life." "She's too young to understand." "I know, but I want her to grow up knowing that love can start in the most unexpected ways. That sometimes the best things happen when you're not looking for them." Mara joined them, the three of them in the quiet nursery with the nightlight casting soft shadows. This was her family. This was home. As Emma grew, she proved to be a perfect mix of both parents. She had Connor's eyes and Mara's smile, his determination and her kindness. She was curious and fearless, which meant constant vigilance as she learned to crawl and then walk. "She has your ability to find trouble," Connor told Mara when Emma managed to pull every book off a low shelf. "That's definitely your genes. I'm very responsible. You crashed a party and nearly destroyed a champagne tower. That was one time, and it worked out great." On their 5th wedding anniversary, Connor and Mara renewed their vows in the same garden where they had married. Emma, now 2 years old, scattered petals and charmed everyone with her toddler enthusiasm. "5 years ago, you took a chance on a party crasher," Mara said. "Thank you for seeing past the disaster to the person underneath." "5 years ago, you walked into my life and made everything better," Connor replied. "Thank you for choosing me every day, even when I don't deserve it." They kissed while Emma clapped and their families cheered, and Mara thought about the strange twists of fate that brought people together. If she had gone to the correct ballroom that day, if she had not tripped, if Connor had not been there to catch her, their lives would be completely different. Sometimes the best things came from mistakes and accidents and moments of complete embarrassment. That evening, after Emma was asleep and the house was quiet, Connor and Mara sat on their back porch watching fireflies dance in the yard. "You ever think about that day?" Connor asked. "The day we met, all the time, I was so mortified. I was captivated. You were this force of nature, apologizing and making jokes and being completely yourself even when you were embarrassed. I thought you were the most beautiful man I had ever seen. I assumed you were out of my league." Leagues don't exist when you meet the right person. You just know. "Did you know that day? That I was the right person?" Connor considered the question seriously. "I knew you were important. I knew I wanted to know everything about you. I knew that letting you walk away without getting your number would be the biggest mistake of my life." Smooth talker. Truth talker. He pulled her close, and Mara rested her head on his shoulder. "I love our life, the chaos and the beauty and the ordinary moments. I love it all because I get to live it with you. I love it too. Even when Emma draws on the walls or you leave your shoes where I can trip over them or we're both too tired to have a real conversation. Especially then." They sat together as the sky darkened and the stars came out. Content in the life they had built from champagne and chance and choosing each other every single day. Inside, Emma slept peacefully in her room decorated with books and dreams. Upstairs were the offices where they both worked from home sometimes, balancing careers and family. Throughout the house were photos documenting their journey from strangers to partners to parents. And it all started because Mara walked into the wrong ballroom, crashed the wrong party, and caught the attention of a man who would become her forever. Sometimes the best love stories begin with spectacular mistakes and embarrassing moments. Sometimes walking through the wrong door leads you exactly where you are supposed to be. Sometimes a party crasher and a millionaire find that, despite every difference, they fit together perfectly. Mara would never regret getting lost that day. Connor would never regret staying at his sister's bridal shower long enough to meet the woman who changed everything. They built a life full of love and laughter, full of challenges met and overcome together, full of ordinary moments made extraordinary by sharing them. They raised Emma with the same values that brought them together: kindness, resilience, and the courage to be authentically themselves. Years later, when Emma was old enough to ask how her parents met, Connor and Mara told her the story. They told her about champagne towers and wrong ballrooms and love at first sight disguised as a disaster. "So Mom crashed a party and you fell in love?" Emma asked. "Basically," Connor agreed. "That's the best story ever." "It's our story," Mara said. "And I would not change a single thing about how it happened." She meant it. Every stumble, every accident, every moment of uncertainty had led to this life she loved. To the man beside her, the daughter they cherished, the family they had created. The best adventures often start with wrong turns and happy accidents. The best love stories sometimes begin with embarrassment and champagne and strangers who become everything. And sometimes, crashing the wrong party leads you to exactly the right person.